Looking back to my university days, one thing that I've learned is the importance of getting accommodation when you require it. A lot of university and colleges have a process of getting accommodations, whether or not you have a pre-existing medical condition that allows you to get accommodation for a prolonged period of time, or you have fallen ill and you can get accommodation for a interim period. So if you are eligible, or you might think you're eligible, make sure you go through the process to actually suss out whether or not you can get accommodation, because it is actually quite important. Now that as someone who teach in the university, I often see a lot of students who are struggling and they don't get accommodation, and having been through similar situations in university where I've fallen very ill, and I tell myself that next day I'll feel better, I can get to my assignments, or I can start studying. It never works in your favor. You always end up being sicker for longer than you imagined. You end up delaying all your timelines much further than you anticipated. You end up getting lesser time to study than you wish you had, and all that to say, if you had gone through the medical accommodation process, if you had asked your professors for an extension, if you had gotten accommodation to write your exam at a later date, all of these issues would have been solved. So make sure you seek out medical accommodation when you do require it, or if you think you've fallen ill right around an assignment due date or right around an exam due date. Make sure you really check it out and see if you can get things delayed, because it really helps, especially if you're hoping to go into grad school later on, or law school or med school, where grades really matter. You don't want this this little wishful thinking of yours to really dampen your chances of getting into the school of your dream in the end, because it is a very silly mistake, but the consequences can be quite tremendous if you end up doing really poorly in the final exam or the final assignments. That's worth a lot in terms of your final mark. And also on the flip side, now that I teach, a lot of times I see students, struggling. I see students, being ill, and I remind them that there are medical accommodations. I remind them that, you can go to your prof and ask for an extension, and they don't take it. And then when I, receive their assignment in 2 weeks time after the due date, is either really poorly done, or they submit it, way later post a due date, for example, a week or 2 weeks later, where I have to take off marks on a daily basis, and it really impacts your grade. So don't be shy in terms of getting medical accommodation. And sometimes the first step is just having a talk with your prof. Ask them if you get an extension. For my courses, oftentimes a lot of students come to me first to ask for an extension for a day or two, or even they let me know that they're sick, and they maybe they want to submit it at most a week later. I often say yes. So if you think the medical accommodation process is too rigorous, don't be shy about it, but also take your first step and ask your prof, just to see if your prof is willing to to just give it to you. A lot of profs are nice and they will do it. Some of them are more stricter and they'll put you through the medical accommodation process. But again, it is very important to get the help that you need and the extensions that you require should you fall ill or have a medical condition. It's really important to have little things like this that sets you up for success in terms of the course, because each course counts towards your overall GPA. And if you do intend of going into a more competitive field or a more competitive grad school in the end, then obviously all these little things help.